incentives, encouragement and drivers for everything, don't you? When Sir Nicholas, or now Lord Stern, delivered that report of his, which I actually read, actually. I don't know why I did.
It's very good.
But I did. It came out in about 2006, wasn't it?
18 months ago. Stern report.
Yeah, Stern report.
Nick Stern is Treasurer.
Yeah, he's Lord Stern now, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
And when I read it, one of the things he said, which I've always retained in my mind, is that, well, if you expect people to do this, to invest in better practices, sustainable practices, then they've got to have some encouragement that will be rewarded. And I would have thought that one of the ways in which that should be done increasingly, again, I'm looking at the public sector because it's much easier to achieve, I think, is for the public sector to say, well, okay, as far as the selection process is concerned, if we can see that, firstly, you as a business have made your business greener, and secondly, that you have invested in, say, renewables or renewable technologies.
So the question is, really just to interrupt, the question is, do you think this will happen? Is the question.
Oh, I see.
Or do you think it is happening?
Well, I think it will in time, but I don't think it will now. Okay. But I think it will in time when people will see that actually just these voluntary approaches just don't work in the industry, frankly. And you have to drive things. So you have to say, well, okay, yes, we'll have you will be given a preference in the selection process if you can actually demonstrate that you've actually done the investment in sustainable practices, you run your business sustainable. I mean, I have to say now, again, you mentioned my sector chairman, when the steel industry have a sustainability charter. Now, you might think, oh, charters, oh no, here we go again. But what they're doing, that charter sets out certain requirements to run your business as a steel business in the greenest way possible. And that is, firms are now audited to ensure that it comply with the requirements of the charter.
Okay.
But that effort needs to be rewarded, that's what I'm saying.
Right. Quick one, Sandra?
Yes, I agree with Rudy's comments there, and what I would say, if you take a company like Lang O'Rourke, who are actually at the moment focusing 70% of their activity off-site, I think that gives us an indication of where the profits and where the intentions may be in the future.
That's very interesting. So we've got kind of two of the panel think it is happening and will happen. One saying it is a little bit, but not very much, and it should be made to happen more. Peter, casting vote?
Well, I don't have a huge amount to add, really. It's not. I think it probably won't happen, but I just hope that. I think in some ways I'm more concerned about people than technology at my end of the spectrum, and that people should be still wanting to invest in people rather than necessarily in technology, because I think it's people who make the difference.
Thank you. Got time for one more question, but are there any comments from anyone who'd like to make on people who are close to the industry? Some of you are in contracting companies or businesses or so on. Do you see Britain's companies surviving well in this climate, or do you think there'll be more and more takeovers from other national companies abroad? We've seen a lot of it recently, have we not? Anyone going to venture? Fine. I'd like to go then. We've got time for one more question, and then we'll ask for a sort of Bank of England comment on the discussion today. Elliot, you have a final question.
When I was in school, then Chancellor said something along the lines of, gone are the days of boom and bust. So you can imagine my surprise that 18 months into my working life, I'm now experiencing my first recession. So my question to the panel is this: are recessions something I'm going to look forward to pretty much throughout the rest of my career, and are they always likely to hit the construction industry so hard?
Well, there's an interesting question, and indeed, Tim, you might care to pick that up. Peter, you've been around, not for that long, but you've seen a few recessions come and go.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm not an economist, but I mean, I imagine the economists amongst us would say that markets go in cycles, and that will always be the case. There's the question of what the cycle will be and how deep the peaks and troughs will be. So I think that's on the assumption that capitalism survives, it will continue to work in a cyclical fashion, and so that one could expect not necessarily boom and bust, but certainly high periods and low periods. And the construction industry, yes, will always suffer because when in low periods, what people do will they stop building. So I'm afraid one just has to tough it out.
Cheered you up. Sandra, can you offer any more comfortable words?
I would agree with those comments as well. I mean, we look back, we had a recession in the 1980s, it lasted, construction output dropped for 1 year. We then had a further recession in the 90s where construction output dropped for 4 years. We're now in our next recession, but we have had 13, 14 years of sustained growth in the construction industry. So boom bust, not quite, but yes, if we are going to hit recession, construction will suffer.
It's interesting. I mean, we've gone from, as I said earlier, just under 1 million in 1994-5, and we were 2 million, just over 2.1 million before this recession. So actually, the size of the industry had actually doubled. So we're going down now, but we're still way above what we were.
Chairman, the second element there, yes, we'll have more recessions, I'm afraid, but what about the impact on the industry? Well, I taught law at South Bank many years ago, and one of my economist colleagues there, Professor Ball, had a theory which he propounded, which I think had a lot of sense, which was this, that it's not recessions that cause this industry a problem, so much as the fact we've got too many firms in the industry, actually. So John Egan, in his report, Rethinking Construction 1998, made this point. There are no barriers to entry in this industry. Anybody can come into this industry. We have no measure of corporate competence in the industry. We need to address that as a matter of urgency so that we don't allow everybody into this industry. And so John Egan's point was, of course, we don't really have a great deal of credibility in the city because, in fact, we do not have any barriers to entry. That is something we must do. It doesn't mean to say we restrict competition, but competition is only real and genuine competition if you have a level playing field. At the moment, we don't even have that.
Right, thank you. And the last word?
The last word. In terms of recession, one word of caution I think I would add is beware of coming out of recession. And that is key. One of my abiding memories from the last one was I was actually on a site in London, and all of the electricians on that site upped on a Friday and went down the road to another site to start work on a Monday for an extra 50 pence an hour more. And it's that scenario that you also need to consider, because that will have a big effect as we're coming out, as people can move to better paid jobs. If you're locked into a contract for any long period of time, then you need to be maybe a bit cautious.
Any last words from our audience on any of the things that have been said? Might be your last chance to be thus recorded and for posterity. Any last sort of comments? Otherwise, I shall ask for us to thank the panel in the normal way. Any final?
I'll make a very quick one. Talking to BRE, yes, lots of legislation. I said, how many people have been prosecuted? They said none. So it's not just a matter of legislation, it's a matter of prosecution.
Yes, so though when I was in the civil service, I'd left, and shortly after that, the permanent secretary was fired because he hadn't made his existing government building sufficiently sustainable and he hadn't followed his own guidelines. So that was the first scalp. So I think watch this space, I would say. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your questions and your comments. And I would like very much to thank our panel. We've had people who clearly are very knowledgeable, very experienced, and have spoken very clearly in answer to the good questions that were asked. And I think we're all very much indebted to them. So can I ask you to thank the panel for all that they've done tonight. Thank you very much indeed. We'll now power down the cameras. Thank you very much, personally, panel, if I may. And Tim, just as soon as we get the nod that the cameras are not recording and you're completely off the record, do you want to make any comments about any of things that were said about possibly about the last question about can young professionals look forward to a lifetime?